Hello chess friends, welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this video, in this endgame tutorial, I'm going to show you an excellent chess composition. It's a problem composed by Hermann Mattheson. It was composed in 1929 and it was published in Schachmatt. So, a very basic king and pawn endgame. In fact, the king and pawn endgames are the one of the most basic endgames out there, but that doesn't mean they're simple at all. So, it's white to play and win the game over here. There's a beautiful move, a sequence of move that wins the game for white. And if you know this idea, this theme, you will be able to use it in various games. In fact, many of the people have been using this theme for years and years, including the Magnus Carlsen. I can show you one of his games where he has used it effectively. So, white to play and win the game. Go ahead, pause the video, and try to find the move that white should play here. Alright, so basically you have to use your imagination as a bridge between the reality and what we want to achieve basically. So just imagine that this pawn just jumps on g6 and then you will be able to see that okay, this is a win for white because it's a check, the pawn will go forward and it will promote obviously. So if we can somehow make one of the pawns go to g6, it is winning. How do we do that? Of course, there are two pawns, not one but two pawns, and actually one of his pawns wants to capture our pawn. It doesn't seem easy at all, and so there are several tries. But the correct move is over here. White in this position should play the move pawn to h4, an amazingly beautiful move. Well, with this move, you are basically putting both of your pawns and trees and both the pawns can be captured. It's just up to black which pawn he wants to capture. There are three different options. He can take our pawn on g4, he can take our pawn on h4, he can also play king h6, and we're gonna go through all these variations. So starting with, let's say, g takes on h4. In this case obviously the g file has been opened up for the pawn, so we just go forward h3 g6 check. This comes with a tempo, it saves time. After king h6 we are just in time to promote. He also promotes, but of course queen to g6 terminates the game, ends the game right over there. So after the move pawn to h4, after this brilliant move, he can also capture our pawn on g4. Now how are we getting an edge over here? The point is we're not going to push, but rather we're going to capture on g5, and again we have a g pawn. That's just as we have imagined, just as we have used our imagination. If we can get it on the g file, we are winning. So here we go, g3 g6 check. This is the move that makes all the difference. The black king is actually very passively and badly placed, which allows our pawn to advance with the check, and that is the reason we win over here after promotion. Basically, if he promotes, we can just pick up the queen, and then there is a mate. I can just show you. It's child stuff, of course, so stakes, and there is now mate in 2, starting with queen g3, controlling the square. King steps back, and this is checkmate. Awesome. Alright, let's go back. After the move pawn to h4, both the pawns are hanging, but none of the pawn can be captured, so he might also try something like king to h6. Now what should white play over here? Obviously, now you can't take this pawn because king takes, and you can't really take this pawn because of king takes, so it looks like a draw. But of course, there is a winning idea. We play king to f6, supporting the g5 square, and one of the pawn will definitely go there. What do I mean with that? Well, let's say he just steps back. Then you already know what to do. We can just capture on g5, and that wins basically. Now the threat is king f7 with the idea of pushing forward. If he just goes to g8 in order to stop king f7, then we take this pawn. This is completely winning. And if he just ignores and captures over here, king f7, covering the three squares and making way for the pawn, is absolutely winning. We are way ahead in time. All right, going back after the move king to h6, we answer that with king to h6, we answer that with king to f6, and no matter what he plays over here, we are winning. For example, if g takes an h4, then the path for the g pawn is cleared up. We just play check equals here, and it's very important that we play very calmly here. Remember, these are the key squares of the pawn on g5, and once you push forward, this is actually a mistake. Now the key squares are this will be the key squares of the pawn on g6, and once the king goes over here, he stops your king from advancing to any of the key square, and if your king cannot advance to any of the key squares, he cannot win the game. In fact, this is black, it's this position black is the one who's winning. That's why here we have to be careful not to prematurely advance the pawn, but rather just play king f7, covering the g8 square, at the same time supporting the pawn totally, and this is absolutely winning. Alright, what else can you try over here? Instead of capturing on h4, you can also try this. Again, the same stuff, you just take, and if he goes here, then we just push forward. We are winning in time. And if king h7 again, king f7, excellent technique by white, covering the g8 square, making way for the pawn, and now this is absolutely winning. So here we go, everything happens with tempo, and there comes the queen. Queen g6 is made. If he promotes, we take the queen, and absolutely winning position. What a beautiful endgame position. There are just five pieces, six pieces on the board, and despite such a less amount of material, in fact, this is king and pawn. King and pawn is supposed to be super easy, but despite that, there is so much amount of play in this position and so much beautiful lines and instructive value to even a simple endgame problem like this. That is the reason endgames are a must, and Capablanca has, throughout his life, emphasized the importance of endgames. So, hope you enjoyed this excellent chess composition by Herman Matheson. It was an excellent composition, very simple but very beautiful. And this idea of pushing the pawn and kind of it is creating a breakthrough. This breakthrough idea has been used by grandmasters for many years. In fact, when Magnus was young, there is a very beautiful game he played. He just sacked his pawn in a similar way. I have covered that on my channel. I'll just put the link in the description so you can check that out. A very similar endgame. So, hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching and do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, see you guys.